Well, hey there. Happy Wednesday and welcome to Unmistakably You. I'm here as always Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. This is take two for tonight, so I'm a couple of minutes late. But we are always here talking about all things weddings. So, our goal is to help you navigate your wedding planning with grace and ease and to answer any questions that you might have. So, if you're catching us here live, please feel free to say hi, pop a comment in, or if you're catching us on the replay, again, just say hi. We love to hear that you're watching. And as always, we're looking for content because we do this every week and we want to be as helpful as we can for you. So if you're wondering about something, if there's something stressing you out in the wedding planning, please don't hesitate to ask or send us a private message. We are more than happy to help wherever we can. We've been doing this a long time, and our goal is to try and help kind of ease your stress as you navigate the planning process. If you've been with us for the past few weeks, we've been doing a The Role of series. So we started talking about kind of the role of these civilians, if you will, in your wedding planning. So those who are not trained wedding professionals, people like your MC, your wedding party, your parents. And today we're here to talk about the role of your guests in your wedding. Now, you might think that this is something that you don't need to think about at all. I mean, you invite them, they show up. What more is there to think about? I'm here to shed some light on a couple of things that you are going to want to have on your radar with regard to your guests as you plan your wedding. Again, seems simple, seems like a no-brainer, but there are some things to be aware of. The first thing is that you are going to assume that once you invite your guests, they will RSVP on time. This is a wrong assumption. You would like to think that they would. You make it as easy as you can. You send them a pre-addressed, pre-stamped envelope, or you send them to a website where they literally have to click 3 buttons, and then they don't do it. I mean, come on, people, how much easier could it be? I promise you they will not do it. I mean, most of them will, but you will have to track people down. So when it comes to setting your RSVP deadlines, I encourage you to set them at least a month before your wedding, because that's going to give you a couple of weeks to track down those delinquents who, despite the easy, like press a button response option that you gave them, they're not going to. So it'll give you time to track them down, and then you'll still have time to pull together your final numbers for your caterer, who probably needs them about 2 weeks in advance. You're also going to make the assumption of your guests that they're going to arrive on time. Most of them will, some of them won't. So I encourage you to have someone in charge of your ceremony, particularly if the geography of your ceremony is such that a late entry might really derail your ceremony. Maybe a late entering guest might inadvertently end up as part of the procession, or maybe they might walk right into the side of the ceremony and be right there in front of everybody. So have someone in charge of wrangling those guests who might arrive late and making sure to hold them back until an appropriate point in the ceremony to let them in and let them find a seat. Unfortunately, things happen and guests will show up a little bit late. When we do wedding coordination or planning, we always want to make sure that we touch base with one or both members of the couple who have eyes on the crowd to make sure that if there's someone notable missing, maybe grandma's not there yet, we'll hold the ceremony. But generally speaking, once all of those family VIPs are in place, we do try to move ahead with the ceremony. So, if stragglers come in late, we try to hold them back and make sure that they find a seat and can enjoy the ceremony, but not disrupt the ceremony. The other thing that you might assume is that your guests are going to arrive at all. Ideally, in a perfect world, all of the guests who RSVP do actually show up to your wedding. I mean, Lord knows you've paid for them to be there. It's pricey. You expect them to be there. But again, the reality is that shit happens. I mean, we had a wedding back in March on a Friday night where there was just a monster snowstorm in southwestern Ontario. And there were a number of guests, like I'm talking about a third of the guests, who didn't come because of the weather forecast. At my own wedding, we had a friend who just didn't show up. And I thought, oh my gosh, in the moment, on the day, I was like, oh my gosh, how rude. I didn't ever once, apparently I'm a selfish jerk, but I didn't ever once think, oh, I hope Jeff's okay. I just thought, oh my gosh, Jeff isn't here. And I mean, we wanted him here. We expected him here. We have a plate for him. We have, we've set aside space. And I was being a selfish jerk. What I didn't know was that Jeff had been doing some construction in the morning and had literally drilled through his finger, so he was at the hospital. So you never know what might happen. Try not to dwell on it if guests don't arrive. You probably will have a couple, and this day and age, especially post-COVID, there are always a handful of guests who cancel last minute or just don't show up at all. The best advice I can give you is don't dwell on it. Don't let it ruin your day. Move on. Pray that they're healthy and that everything's okay, that nothing bad has happened to them, and know that they will catch up with you later and express their regrets. You're going to assume that your guests are going to dress appropriately. Now, I have done weddings where there has been a dress code, however formal or informal. I've had dress codes like, semi-formal or beach casual. I've also had color themes suggested for guest attire. The reality is that people probably have the best intentions, but someone is probably going to have a different aesthetic than you and show up dressed in a way that you wouldn't have wanted them to show up. Now, if you know that this might be an issue, I mean, if you've got a slutty sister who you can maybe put somebody in charge of respectfully and quietly behind the scenes beforehand, maybe you can sort of preemptively solve that problem. But again, if someone shows up attired on your wedding day in a way that you would prefer they were not attired, you can't do anything about it. So again, don't let that be the thing that ruins your day. Do try to let it go. Don't focus on it. You are also going to assume that your guests are going to drink responsibly. Or maybe you're not. I mean, maybe you are throwing just a rager of a wedding and you're expecting that all of your guests will be blackout drunk. Generally speaking, we assume that people can take care of themselves, that they can be responsible and safe. If you know that based on your guest demographic, that's not likely to be the case, there are some things you can do. I would encourage you to hire a cab service or a designated driving service, to have a shuttle, perhaps to have someone on the lookout as a DD or someone just to kind of keep an eye on Aunt Sally, who tends to drink too much. You might also want to put that on the radar of the bartenders. Maybe you want to say, you know what, watch out for Aunt Sally. She tends to, get carried away when she has fun. Ultimately, your guests are adults, and I mean, aside from maybe providing a couple of safe options for them, you are not responsible for them. But again, if you know that it's likely to be a pretty wild wedding, you might want to proactively put some things in place to help keep your guests safe. You are also probably going to assume that your guests are going to bring you a nice gift, or these days, let's be honest, most of us are hoping for a nice gift. We're hoping for an envelope that has some kind of a contribution to our honeymoon, or to that new house we're saving for, or to, the new set of appliances that we need in our kitchen. Realistically, the days of giving Corelle dinnerware and toasters have kind of gone the way of the 1950s, but Grandma was around in the 1950s, and she's probably still going to give you a toaster. And you're going to say, "Thanks, Grandma. This is such a great toaster. I really appreciate it," when you write her this thoughtful and very personal thank you card that you will send after the wedding, because you will send thank you cards. Etiquette dictates, even in this day and age, etiquette dictates that you will send thank you cards after your wedding. But realistically, you don't necessarily know the circumstances that your guests are in. So if you're expecting a gift from someone and they don't bring a gift, or they don't bring an envelope, first of all, during the wedding, make sure that you have someone keeping an eye on the envelopes. So if you have a card box, have it cleared out, have those cards locked up so that you know that nothing has gone missing for nefarious purposes. But if someone doesn't bring you a gift, don't get hung up on it. You never know what happened. Maybe their dog just got diagnosed with cancer and has to have surgery and a whole bunch of medications, and they couldn't afford it. You never know what someone's circumstance is. There are cultures where etiquette and tradition would dictate that the gift should be equal to the meal that you are providing to the guest. Realistically, depending on your heritage, your culture, your traditions, that may be the case. It's not always the case. And you know what? If a guest brings a really thoughtful gift that they have, given from the heart, appreciate, be thankful. If a guest doesn't bring a gift, don't judge. You don't know what their circumstance might be. So generally speaking, be thankful for the people who came to celebrate with you and who came to support you as you started this new chapter in your lives, and try not to get so hung up on the material elements of things. Another assumption that you will likely make is that your guests will be positive, excited, and happy for you on your wedding day. And with 98% of your guests, that will be the case. But again, try not to overanalyze or perhaps misinterpret if a guest doesn't seem to be happy or excited. Again, you don't know what happened that morning. Maybe they're having a rough day. Maybe something went seriously wrong in their life. Don't personalize it. Don't internalize it. Don't make things necessarily about you. I mean, yes, it's your wedding day. It's about you, but try not to read too much into situations that you might not have the whole story on. So most of your guests are super excited to be there and celebrate with you, and try not to fixate on anything that seems out of line with that. Finally, the hope or the assumption would be that your guests would join you in celebration on your wedding day, and then they would join you in support for the duration of your married life. My hope for you is that every single one of those guests at your wedding proves to be an important part of your support system as you navigate your married life. The reality is that life circumstances change. People move, people grow apart, things happen. So while I sincerely hope that the majority of your guests are lifelong friends and they are there with you to celebrate all of those life milestones, know that sometimes people grow apart, things happen. And I hope that if that is the case with you and any of your guests, you're able to wish them well, to stay in touch in whatever way that you can, and to appreciate that they were there to share their love and support on the day that you started this new chapter in your lives. So we talked about your expectations of guests to RSVP on time, to arrive on time, to arrive at all, to dress appropriately, to drink responsibly, to bring a nice gift, to be positive and excited, and to share your lives. And the reality is that most of the time, most of your guests will do all of those things, and it will be a beautiful, joyous occasion. I just encourage you, as I do with anything from tiny little decor slips to mishaps with the food to miscommunications with your hairstylist, don't focus on the little things. Enjoy your wedding day, focus on the commitment that you're making, and have a wonderful, beautiful day. As always, I'm here on Wednesdays to chat with you at 8 o'clock about elements that you might be facing in your wedding planning. Next week, we are talking about 5 surefire ways to know if you are a bridezilla. And I really, really sound like the cover of People magazine right now or something like that. But that's what we're chatting about next week. So I will catch you then. As always, if you have a question or a comment, don't hesitate to reach out. You can hit me at amy@unmistakably.you.com. I'm always here and I love to chat. Have a good one. Happy planning. I'll catch you next week. Bye.